Hello and welcome to the introductory video to Rivaling Royals of Europe, a game which faithfully recreates the power struggles between the rivaling royal families of Western Europe, various religious leaders in the church, and landed nobility. So to get to understand the game a little bit better, let's go through some of the components and actual gameplay. Here we see up at the top the back of each card. And at the top here shows the various noble play cards, which involve troops and assassins to protect and defend and attack various countries. Down here we have the 4 countries of Western Europe that are used in the game: France, England, Scotland, and Spain. And for each country there are 4 prominent cities which played very important roles throughout the Middle Ages. And each one of these cities will be the beginning of your power base, each city having different sorts of skilled trades that could come into play for capturing and growing, developing your city with trades. And then there's a list of cards that include 12 different trades that can be used to gain points and power within Europe. Here on the right you see 16 different noble houses involving the royalty of bishops and kings and queens for the 4 different colors: red, blue, black, and green. And then right below that are the royal play cards, each card having a royal play scroll at the top, allowing you to quickly identify those plays which can be made by reigning royalty within one of the European countries that controls a throne to yield powers such as imprisonment or pardons or assassinations. And then event cards, which recreate important events that change the course of history within medieval Europe, such as the Reformation, invasions and wars, and the plague, which decimated over a third of the population of medieval Europe. The game also includes a die for adding some probability to these types of event cards, and card stands to help speed and the recognition of various regents throughout Europe. So let's move on to a 2-player game simulation where we have East and West. I'll introduce you to both. Here's the Eastern player and the Western player. And each player will, at the beginning of the game, select their religious faith. In our example here, we have the Western player choosing the Protestant religion as their royal house's predominant religion, and the Eastern player will choose Catholic. And this will come into play during the Reformation card and in strategies where you may want to seed opposing, rivaling religions in different countries to unseat that power. And then you also choose a color of your royal house so that you can gain additional political points at the end of a scoring round when your particular royal house has captured more of the thrones of Europe. So let's move on to play. Let's let East be our dealer, dealing out 5 cards, and in the middle of the table will be a draw pile and a discard pile, which is face up. The player to the left of the dealer will start, which is West in this case, and gameplay starts by always drawing enough cards so that you have at least 5 cards in your hand. That's how many they have. So play starts off right away with West, and West begins by building their power base within France by establishing the French city of Lyon with its 3 skilled trades, and now immediately becomes the regent of France, building their identifying them as the controller of the French government. This will change, as you see in later play, as more cities are captured, or as an opposing player establishes different thrones within Europe to challenge that regency. Now the East player's turn. East player also decides to build their power base, but this time within England and London, and they happen to have a skilled trade card that matches the requirement for London, and they can play that at the same time. And now they have London established, and they become the regent of England as well. It's West's turn, and West decides to discard a tailor card after drawing a card, but didn't really pay much attention to who else might need that. And in this case, East does and can immediately call it. Any player can call a discarded skill trade if they can use it within their city, and that's what they do. So the East player calls it and immediately places that tailor's card from the discard pile under their stack in London, and now London is gaining even more prominence within Europe. And it's still East's turn. That doesn't count as a play to call a discarded trade that you need, and decides to solidify their power even more in Europe, in London and in England specifically, by establishing the Red Queen as the regent of England. And you'll note that she's also red, which matches the color of the royal house for additional power and points. I'd also like to show you how that player is stacking their cards so it's easy to see who they control, where their seat of power is, and how much, if they are protected or not. You see that they have the throne cards on top of the city. So this Red Queen here is her seat of power is in London, and there would be any trades. You can have up to 3 trade cards and then 1 troop card protecting the Queen and all the inhabitants of London. And then the regent card can be placed in a card stand and placed atop the regent, the Red Queen, to signify she is the regent, and this player controls this particular regency of that country. Now let's go on to West. West draws up to the cards needed to bring their hand up to 5, and decides to play a trade. And maybe they have everything that they need and decide to pass in this example. You don't always have to do a noble or royal play. It's East's turn, and East decides to play a city of Norwich to build upon their power base in England, maybe setting the stage for selecting a king, a consort, king of the reigning queen, or establishing a bishop to add even more power and control of their reign over England. West's turn, and West decides to challenge that by sieging Norwich. So the West player would announce, I am sieging Norwich, which is an unprotected city. There are no troops protecting Norwich. So when a attacking player sieges, the defending player draws 1 card from the deck, the draw pile, and now decides whether, if they have a troop, they can stop that siege and make it unsuccessful. If they don't have any troops or choose not to defend the city, then the siege is successful. In this case, East chose either not to defend it or doesn't have any troops, and therefore loses the battle, and Norwich will now be transferred over to West, which happens to have a soldier card, which is one of the needed skilled trades, and now West controls Norwich. It's East's turn, and East draws up to the needed cards to bring their hand to 5, and deploys establishes a French city in order to challenge the Western player who is current regent. West decides that they better protect their city. Maybe they have plans. They want to make that the base of a throne. They want to protect themselves from being attacked to keep their regency. A lot of reasons why putting troops on a city is an important thing to do, when to do it and when not to do it. Here, the East player is in fact now going to challenge the regency of the West player by capturing the throne of the Queen, establishing the Black Queen as now the regent of France, with her power base here in this city. And because the Queen outranks just a player who controls the city, regency transfers to the Eastern player. Now East finds themselves both the regent of England and of France, but you'll notice that they haven't protected either throne with any troops, so it's a very dangerous tactic that they're playing. West perhaps recognizes the weakness there and instills their own king. Each country can have a king, queen, archbishop, and bishop. And so now the West player has established the king of France in Lyon, and that's their noble play. They can also make a royal play now within France, and what they choose to do is they happen to have an imprisonment card, and so West now imprisons the Queen of France, puts her into house arrest or jail, and this causes the regency to switch from the current regent to the new regent. So the king consort, if you will, has now taken rule, is the regent of France, while the queen is lay in house arrest within her city. It's East's turn, and East decides to retaliate by capturing back Norwich, which, if you remember, was originally Eastern's card. And so West draws a card and produces a discard, and in this case has a troops. So the siege of Norwich by the Eastern player was unsuccessful. And now it's West's turn. West decides to cause some problems with that ownership of Norwich by instilling a bishop. And if you remember at the beginning of the game, the queen of the Red Queen, any of the royals that were red are Catholic, and now the regent of England is a Catholic monarchy here, the Queen in London. And what the Western player has done is established a blue bishop, which is a Protestant bishop, and so now we have a potential conflict should the Reformation occur. You can see that by the black cross symbol of the Protestant bishop. So now it's Eastern's turn. Eastern draws a card and perhaps has now or decided to pardon the Black Queen, and so now she is no longer imprisoned, but does not immediately capture the regency back. She'd have to imprison, assassinate, or execute the king, or establish another city with a bishop to overpower the kings, to challenge to take back the regency of France away from West. It's now West's turn, and West decides to protect that bishop in Norwich from assassinations or imprisonment, and immediately places a troops card there, putting another thorn in the side of the Red Queen of London. The Eastern player did draw an event card, the Reformation card, and you'll see that for every event card, dice is used to determine the outcome, and probability based on what really happened is given here. And during the Reformation, either the regent, if there was no conflict between any of the religions, then the Reformation had little effect in that country other than to solidify a country's belief in one faith. So in France, for example, we have a Protestant blue king. The queen was not a taken house. No one claimed the religious faith of the blacks, so that could be either one. So to avoid execution or assassination, it really wouldn't be any result from that. However, the big conflict here is in England, where the queen, the Red Queen, is proclaimed Catholic, with the bishop here in Norwich being a Protestant. So the regent rolls a dice, and the outcome of that is a 2. And if you look on the Reformation card, that means that those who oppose the regent's religion are assassinated. So unfortunately, this time West's strategy did not work, and the bishop is assassinated. And but it could have easily, if a 6 had been drawn, or 5 or 4, something would have happened to the Catholics in England, either losing troops or their monarch or their city. It's West's turn, and West decides to use their power as a regent and as a royal within France to accuse the Black Queen of high treason, which is an executable event. Execution can be claimed. And because the Queen is not protected by any troops, she's quite vulnerable. So besides claiming high treason here, I think it's fun to break the not make it such a mechanical game, but to actually add realistic claims to proclaim that. So the Blue King accuses the Black Queen of high treason, produces an execution card, and unfortunately she has no choice but to go to the gallows or be burned at the stake, whichever method the Blue King chose. And because she was executed and fell from disgrace, the city, the seat of her power, her imperial city, becomes a non-imperial city and is now under the control of the king, and may become a location where he can instill his own queen, more to his liking, or a bishop, or promote that to archbishop. It's East's turn, and East, just as an example, draws the last card. When the last card is drawn, the last play is made after that player draws the last card. In this example, he's just discarding a bishop, which cannot be put into play because East doesn't control any cities as a throne. So this gives you an example of the play, and let's count up the score at the end of the scoring round. And we have here 1 for Lyon and 1 for the Bakers. Troops are not counted, so that's 2 points. The king here is worth 5 points, 4 for being a king or queen, plus 1 because it matches the color that West chose at the beginning of the game, and then 2 points for being the regent of France. You get 1 point for that French city, and for the English city, you get 2 points, 1 for Norwich and 1 for the soldiers. A total of 12 points. And each player would go through the same example here. London and the 2 trades are worth 3 points. The queen would be worth 4, plus it matches the color of that particular player, so they get 1 point, and 2 points for England for a total of 10 points. So typically in a 2-player game, 2 scoring rounds are played, and that allows you to have more than one shuffle of the deck, more than one dealer, to see who's the supreme empress or emperor of Europe. So as you can see, the game has several very fast-paced, interesting plays: the assassination, establishing cities, troops, and then once you control a throne of king, queen, bishop, or archbishop, you begin to execute or have more royal power such as execution, imprisonment, and other types of royal plays. The game allows you to play lots of different roles, whether you like to play the more militant troops attacking role, or be a clergy and to establish an archbishop and bishops within your countries, or to be that landed nobility where you control several cities, build their trades, or to try to become the royal house to control a city. It does lend itself very well to historical and imaginary role-playing. You can also see that there's a lot of twists and turns, fighting for regency over a country, using religion to seed rivaling royals within different countries to build up conflicts during the Reformation. It really does lend itself well to recreating historical events and even establishing mission cards for getting points for that if you like to do those sorts of things. If this has piqued your curiosity, I encourage you to visit thegamecrafters.com, typing in the keyword of Rivaling Royals, or just type in rivalingroyals.com and it'll take you right to the Game Crafters site so you can learn more. Thank you. I trust you enjoyed this video and look forward to sharing lots more of role play and scenario-based games from that site. Thank you.